Can you start a podcast with me, please? I need something to do.
Send it out in front of Malkin to save. They score! Elias Lindholm looks to the heavens.
Here's a chance. Potter right in, and goalie scores. Oh my, what a move by the rookie.
2-on-1. Pastrnak moving in with Marchand. Get it to it. Score!
The zone. Coyle dances in. Backhand score!
Lindholm right wing corner. Pastrnak is there. He scores! David Pastrnak wins it for Boston.
Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of Bruins Tape to Tape. I'm your host today, Karoline with a K. It is September 29th, the day that we're recording this, which means we are so close to October. And I am thrilled to welcome in my fantastic co-host, Maria from Watertown. Hey, Maria.
Hey, Karoline. It's good to have you back again. The band is back together, so to speak.
I know. We are now, just 10 days or so away from the start of the season. We're going to be back to our regularly scheduled programming with our weekly episodes, which we are now going to have out on Tuesdays for this season. And we'll have our snapshots a couple of times per week. If you missed a game and you want to hear, the quick hits, our hot takes, those will be coming back once the regular season has started. But we've been watching some hockey, which has been so exciting, even though it's preseason. I don't know about you, Maria, but I've been desperate to watch a game.
It's been good to see the team take the ice again in whatever shape or form that they're going to be in for the upcoming season. So yeah, we're inching ever so close to real hockey being back again.
I know. It's great to be back in the saddle. So let's dive right in. We're going to set the table. Like I said, preseason is in full swing. We learned a couple of weeks ago with the, I guess you want to call it the preseason presser with new head coach Marco Sturm and Don Sweeney, where they talked about, just what's going to be coming down the pike. Most notably, the fact that this year the Bruins do not have any PTOs participating in preseason. So it's been the last couple of years we've had professional tryouts going on at the same time. Most notably, it worked out for Boston. I guess it was two seasons ago now, right? With Danton Heinen. Didn't really work out the year before that or the year after. But I'm okay with that. I feel like there's so much change coming. You don't need to add another potential element of change. What do you think?
No, and they've got, you might argue that they've got enough guys right now on this roster that you could technically view as PTOs, right? So to add, more into the mix, number one, and number two, I'm not really sure there was anybody that viable out there that you might, it sounds disrespectful and I don't intend it to sound like that, but there wasn't anyone that was really enticing enough to potentially offer that option too.
Yeah, fair enough. And if you follow us on Substack and you get the emails, we've had a few really great articles and posts this summer season and going into this fall about our prospects and the rookies. And interestingly enough, this season was the lowest percentage of rookies invited up to regular camp from rookie camp since at least 2022. And go looking too far back, but it was only 41%, which 2 seasons ago, it was over 70% of the rookies in rookie camp were invited to come up to the regular training camp. But that doesn't mean that besides our regular guys that we know, obviously it's training camp. They're not doing tryouts. The rest of the guys aren't all just the rookies. They are actually competing for a job in Boston with a number of notable AHL guys too. We've been seeing names that we have seen for a while now. Also, they're trying to get that full-time spot. We're talking Fabian Lysell, Patrick
Johnny
Brown.
Matty Poitras. I mean, like what? Yeah, it's breakout time for these players, and we can talk about where we feel some of them stand later on in this pod, and who may be on the outside looking in. I have my thoughts on that, but
yeah, definitely, there are certainly some guys on the AHL side who are kind of, I mean, in this one fan's opinion, reaching their Bruins expiration date, where it's, if this is a player who, the expectation is that they're going to play in the NHL, this is when they have to make that jump, and they have to make the team, and they have to make the team, I think, in a pretty solid way, not in a bubble way, right?
Right,
I think,
right.
And we'll talk about it a little bit later, but we've already seen a number of the guys kind of tagged as, all right, your AHL guys, basically having been, quote unquote cut at this point. But we got a lot of guys still in the running, and it's going to be interesting to see of those guys who are bubble guys. They may come up and down, who are solidly, they're just going to be in the AHL, and a lot of people are going to have to get injured for them to really have a chance.
Right.
And we got a special guest. For those of you not watching, my cat has decided to join us and show off the goods. Sorry.
Well, if she's going to keep showing up, she better start contributing. That's all I'm going to say.
I will say this is the one of my cats that she watches all 82 games with me. So she's probably qualified.
Oh, yes, better takes than we do.
I know. But I wouldn't be surprised if we are watching some of these guys and they are actually going to make the big team. So I feel really good going into regular season in a way that I certainly didn't feel last year, but we'll kind of get into that.
We'll get to that. Yep.
Maria, so one of my thoughts, and I'd love to hear your take on this, is, we've been discussing in our Discord group on game day, everything that we're seeing. This team feels different. Do you think it's because we have such low expectations, or do you think it's something else? Is this that new coach bounce? Is that a thing when you're starting a new coach at the start of the year, as opposed to, that new coach bounce that happens with a mid-season replacement? How do you feel? Do you see something different? Maybe it's just me.
No, it certainly seems different. Again, we're not physically there. We haven't been, the practices are right in my backyard, but I haven't had an opportunity to go to any of them. But so I think, some of it is, starting off a fresh start with a new coach and some new coaching staff members. But I think, me personally, the players who were entrenched in the disaster that was the prior season, who have all come back, are pretty pissed off with the way things ended. Yeah. Right? I'd say 99.9% of professional athletes have a pride factor. You could not have any pride or much pride in what happened last season. So I think there's that pissed off factor. There's a redemption factor. There's we're not going to do this again, or we're going to work our asses off to try and avoid having a repeat of what happened last season. So yes, to some degree, I think it is different, and it better be goddamn different.
Yeah.
Or we're likely not going to see a lot of significant or substantial changes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm looking at it through, right? Ultimately, it's the players you put out on the ice or the field that have to do the job at hand, right? Yeah. And so you didn't do your job at hand virtually at all last season.
Yeah.
Except for, a small segment of the roster. So, I think there's a lot of redemption factor and motivation going on for this year's returning core of players. And hopefully that's going to trickle down.
I agree. And we'll talk about those games and the things that we saw that make us feel differently in just a little bit. But let's just take a real quick cruise around the rink. Sounds like captains across the league are already starting to drop like flies.
Oh, baby.
And the season hasn't even started yet. I guess we could go kind of really quickly from least awful to the most awful.
The worst case scenario, potentially.
The Islanders are going to be without their captain, Anders Lee, for a couple of weeks. Just a general upper body injury. But you never want to start the season without your captain. I think, that's just tough. Especially they've got the number 1 draft pick. Presumably, part of the lineup opening night. And they've got all sorts of new folks in management. So it'll be interesting to see them start off the season without their captain. Dallas captain Jamie Benn is also out with kind of, I would argue, actually kind of a scary injury with a collapsed lung that actually required some surgery. So he's going to be out for at least 4 weeks before he can be evaluated. So that the 36-year-old, he's going to be missing out on his start of the season. And then, of course, kind of one of the other worst case scenarios was for the Florida Panthers and Sasha Barkov, blowing his ACL in a practice. And there was actually video of it. And it's just so unfortunate. He runs into a guy, falls funny, and, that could be his season. He was sent off to surgery basically immediately, but, he's a question mark for the entire season. And for a team that already knew that they were going to be a little bit behind the 8 ball without Matthew Tkachuk finally taking care of that adductor situation, he's expected to be out for a couple of months. I think they kind of timed it so that he would still be potentially able to participate in the Olympics. But, we are always a little suspicious, and we'll put our tinfoil caps on briefly and say it was probably in an effort to do some cap circumvention. But the new playoff cap rule is actually going to go into effect in 2026.
Correct.
And that was something that is part of the CBA that actually doesn't start until September next year, but all sides agreed that this season that would be one
right. And I think there were enough questionable questions around, teams utilizing that salary cap loophole that it made it a relatively easy decision to implement something. Now, I'm not going to worry about the Florida Panthers because we've seen this story before where I believe it was 1 year where they had a number of significant injuries to key players, and they still wound up making it into the playoffs and into the finals. I don't believe they won that year, but right, that team is built to sustain significant injuries to key players.
Yeah.
The interesting thing will be how they play around with maneuvering the cap situation. So this is this were two separate tweets on the same day by Puckpedia relative to Barkov's injury.
Mm.
So if Barkov might return this year, the Panthers can exceed the cap by up to $3.8 million for his injury. If he's medically declared out for the full regular season and playoffs, they can then exceed the cap by his full $10 million, and then he's ineligible to play this season or the playoffs. And that's based on the implementation of the new rule. Now, the potential loophole right now for the Panthers is they can wait on making that decision because they could be cap compliant, this again from Puckpedia, to start the year by putting Matthew Tkachuk on LTIR, which would give them $3.8 million in cap relief, and Nosek on LTIR for $775K relief. That would give the Panthers the flexibility to wait on a decision for putting Barkov out on regular LTIR or season ending. So
is Kachuk on LTIR right now?
I don't believe he
officially.
is. I don't think they've made any official announcements. And I think this is just kind of,
that's correct.
The Puckpedia saying, okay, these are scenarios that could. I'm sure they're having those conversations internally because you clearly, if your intention is to return to the playoffs, right, which I'm sure it is, you don't want to have to make a quick decision and say, okay, Barkov's out, because that means he's out. He's out and you don't get him back.
Right. And then, so for clarification, when you're talking about the cap right now, these are scenarios where that's what they are allowed to do for the regular season cap, right?
Well,
how does it work with the postseason? Because in the past, there was no cap at all for postseason. So assuming he is out for the whole season and, he's medically declared, he can't play the regular season, it means that he cannot play at all in the postseason, correct?
Correct.
And then
if they just say we're shutting Barkov down.
Right. There's no coming in at the 11th hour.
There's no coming in at the 11th hour.
Because this is what happened with Kucherov.
Right. But then he came back, right? In this instance, I think they're holding to some degree the feet to the fire of teams to say, one way or the other, you got to make a decision here.
Mm-hmm.
If your guy is out, he's out. Mm-hmm. You're not going to potentially bury the $10 million and then the playoffs start, right? And then lo and behold, he's back on the ice. So, and I mean, it's providing accountability and to some degree, maybe, evening the playing field for the teams that are, kind of working within the cap and working within the premise of the guidelines and the rules, and those who have just been kind of right now. I'm sure the Panthers want their guy, right? Who doesn't want their captain out on the ice? But you're going to have to do some soul searching and figure out a way to make it work. But if you say he's done, he's done. You got the full $10 million relief, but you're not going to be able to have him saunter out on the ice when the postseason begins. And that includes the regular season, if I'm understanding this correctly. He's not going to be able to play regular season either.
Right.
So it's not an either or. It's a whole enchilada, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, and, I think Bruins fans, while they won't necessarily be happy that someone like Barkov, who I think we're all kind of like, he's one of the good ones. that he's, injured by any stretch. However, the Florida Panthers, according to capwages.com, the Panthers are still almost over the cap by $3.7 million. Yeah. So they're going to have to make some decisions soon because teams do have to be cap compliant by the start of the season. Right now, you're looking at Florida, Dallas, Tampa, and New York Islanders as over the cap. So, it'll be interesting to see, especially considering two of those teams, Florida and Tampa, are in our division. So what does that mean?
Well, it'll be interesting to see what they do with Matt Tkachuk.
Yeah.
It will be interesting. And, how the rules apply there too. If it's the same scenario, like if they put him on LTIR, what happens with his status?
Right. Exactly. And his is further complicated by the fact that, to kind of switch gears briefly, he was invited to, the Olympic training camp, the orientation program, so I think it's no secret that he has every intention of getting a spot on Team USA's roster for the Olympics in February. And, if he's angling to get on that team and, oh, look, you're well enough, you've, gotten onto the team, what does that mean in terms of the optics for what is happening in Florida? So I think they're going to have to tread carefully.
Well, it's a tough decision. They have to decide Barkov or Tkachuk, potentially, right?
Right.
Maybe I'm oversimplifying this. And who gives you the most likely of the two injuries? Who is the most likely of those both key players?
Sure.
Key players to return to your lineup
for long enough to make a difference too, right? Because we talk a lot about no single player can carry a team to a Stanley Cup win, but there can be a single player to be the difference to get that Stanley Cup win. And I think, for whatever you think about Tkachuk, I think he is one of those kinds of players.
I agree with you. Yeah.
So
all personal feelings aside, but I would agree with you.
Right?
I think the Panthers, based on how they're built, and this is not a Panthers podcast, folks. No. We're just talking about
competition, so we have to be aware.
This is the first conversation or the first, instance where this new cap standard is coming into play. I think they can still be a contending team.
Sure.
Without Barkov.
Yes.
And if this injury is, to such a serious degree, right? And you've invested $10 million in this guy, you could look at it both ways.
Right.
Let him stay out the season, get him right and ready for the following season.
Yeah.
And go with the other horses you have on this team. But
right. Well, and then the other thing about the Olympics, I think it goes without saying that there are certain players who were invited to orientation camp that was just a formality, right? We know that whether it's for Team Canada or for Team USA, I would make the assumption that Tkachuk is one of those players who it's like it was just a formality. Unless he physically is unable to participate, he's probably got a roster spot. But listening to a recent episode of 32 Thoughts and learning a little bit more about kind of what the team building aspect is for the Olympics, players who genuinely have to get a spot on that team, they really only have 6 weeks of the regular season, the first 6 weeks to impress. And again, if you think about the timeline, if Tkachuk were to be one of those players who maybe would be a bubble player, to have a legitimate shot of actually making the USA team, he'd have to come back sooner. So then that kind of, again, just opens up the can of worms of, okay, well then are you keeping him out? Are you not? So it's just because he is such a notable player on a team that has been very notable and I'll say it aspirational because of their depth and the diversity of their players to allow them to have these losses and still continue to be a competitive team in a division that is increasingly competitive for the Boston Bruins. So that's all we have to say about everything else that's going around the rink. But we'll take a quick break and talk about what we've seen so far.
Hey Bruins fans, love the pod? Well, here's an opportunity to join the team. Become a friend of the pod on Patreon and unlock more Bruins content, merch perks, and the community we've built with diehard fans like you. For just $3 a month, join Gallery of the Gods. Get ad-free episodes, sticker swag, and a discount in the merch shop. Or go full legend with the Black and Gold tier. Bonus content, virtual watch parties, more swag, and full access to our Substack. No matter the tier, you're in the room with us. Tap the link in the show notes and take your spot on the bench.
Fake break. All right, everyone. So welcome back. We're going to talk a little bit, just really briefly, about what we saw in the first 3 preseason games. We saw the Bruins lose to the Capitals in Boston on the 21st. That was a loss at home with, I believe, the A squad, or at least a lot of guys from the A squad. They did keep up pace with the shots on goal, which, I don't even at this point remember anything particularly notable about that game. I don't know if you had a chance to really watch. I had to listen.
The one thing I did notice besides the shots on goal is coming out of our own end is faster. It appears to be faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As much as, that very first game, even if it was just a preseason game, being a loss at home kind of just reminded you like, ugh, what are we dealing with? Taking a minute to just look at the shots on goal and the fact that both for this game and the second game, they really started to pepper the opposing team they really did, really increase their shots on goal in the third, which is something that was a problem all season. The fact that there were multiple periods in the season where there wasn't even a single shot on goal.
Quality over quantity. Didn't we hear that at one point?
Oh God, I don't want to hear that phrase ever again. But I want to talk a little bit more actually about the 2 games that followed. Not just because they were wins, like, yay, wins. But the fact that, first of all, they were road wins. They were somewhat 2 different squads. The B squad was playing in Philadelphia on the 27th. And the games at certain times, I thought, were really not going our way. Whether it
Especially
was
the Rangers game.
Yes.
The Rangers game looked like
stupid mistakes. I mean, we've already seen a couple of times.
Typical kind of like, here we go again, right?
Yep. A goal by the opposing team 30 seconds later. Like
the opposing team skating through our neutral zone, virtually untouched, or an opposing player getting in behind one of our defensemen. We should know better.
But what happened that was different in both of those games? They kept at it.
Correct. They didn't give up. They didn't tuck tail between their legs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they kept pushing on. They kept playing, and they kept their fight.
Yes.
Which we didn't see enough of last season either, where they would get down and you'd say to yourself, there's no snowball chance in hell that we're coming back in this game.
Yeah. How many times last season did we see them either get behind and, play started to kind of fizzle in terms of energy, and we would say, we need someone to do something to light a fire under them, get them excited, right? And it just never happened.
Materialized, yep.
And it absolutely happened, especially in the Rangers game, because that game, it was neck and neck. It was an exciting game. That third period, I mean, it's everything that you want to see. Isamont scores that goal, and it absolutely lights a fire under the Boston Bruins and really keeps them going. And to some extent, we'll even say that the hockey gods were smiling on them, because there were a number of times last season where they were trying their hardest, and no matter what they did, nothing was going their way. And I saw them trying their hardest in these last two games, and they were rewarded. That perseverance, they prevailed. They kept at it. They stayed in the game. They stayed competitive. And for me, I think that's what feels different.
It has to be different. It absolutely has to be different. And I think we're showing signs of it, number one. And we're also seeing, to me, something that's different from last season's training camp is that a number of these rookies and, other players understand that they're fighting for jobs, that they want to be part of this opening day roster, which to me is dramatically and significantly different from what we saw in last season's training camp.
I think you make an interesting point, because while, when we were talking about the rookies who moved on from rookie camp being the smallest percentage ever, like I said, that doesn't mean that there weren't a lot of spots to fill. Actually, the camp is to some degree wide open in a way that it probably hasn't been in a very long time. And I wonder if last year in particular, besides all that garbage that was kind of the distractions and the things that were happening on the outside, maybe, and this is again just me making a guess, but maybe that competition among the outsiders wasn't as fierce because, well, if there's only one spot, there's only so much I can do. The odds are against me, whereas we basically have to fill two lines. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and maybe even a third, right?
Potentially a third, exactly.
I want that. I'm hoping that these assessments are being viewed very openly.
Yeah. So I think the energy that we have seen in the last two games certainly can be chalked up to the fact that you've got a lot of players who have been out there. We've seen a smattering of the regulars, which is fine. Like, that's normal. I mean, we certainly have already seen more regulars at this point than we did last year.
Right. I was hoping we would.
So that's good,
right? A lot more of the regulars than we have seen again. And yes. I hate, again, we're doing revisionist history, but this is all we can compare and contrast to, because last season was so horrible for this Boston Bruins franchise.
Yes.
That we're going to do that because we were given no choice.
Yes.
But yes, last season, when did we even see the regulars? And we thought, is it, these guys they don't look ready. No. They don't look ready to go.
Right. And they were very not cohesive last year. And again, I want to preface this by saying none of this matters, right? It's preseason.
Correct.
If your team is terrible in the preseason, it means nothing about the regular season. If your team is excellent in the preseason, it means nothing, right? It's just like with playoffs. There's this hard and fast line that comes down, and it is a new game, right?
0-0. There
However,
are zeros everywhere.
right.
Once preseason
However,
is over.
I think what happens in preseason in those games and how the players are responding to what happens can set the tone. If you have a losing preseason, but you're still seeing players out on the ice persevering, continuing to play until that final buzzer, that is something positive you can take out of a losing preseason. Even now for the Bruins, they are technically having a winning preseason, but we'll see what happens tonight. But I'm more focused in on how are they handling the game? What are they doing when they are hitting adversity? When they are down? When they make a stupid mistake, how do they respond? And that, to me, is the biggest difference in what I am seeing compared to last year.
And, you bring up a good point, and a very good example of that is the preseason game against the Flyers.
Mm-hmm.
That was the most recent game where I believe the Bruins got called for a penalty very late in the game. And the Flyers pulled their goalie, so they were skating 6-on-4, and then they were skating 6-on-5. And again, it sound like a broken record, but last season we would be sitting there going, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. Oh, lo and behold, the other team has tied the game, or the other team has gone ahead. Yep. In this instance, I have to give them credit for the fact that they didn't break.
Yes.
In that instance, they did not break. And so I think, again, that's a positive in my view.
Yep. Well, and forget the fact that they've already scored not one, but multiple power play goals. We got a new power play coach brought in from Dallas. So, I'm just thrilled on that. When I saw, I think one of Icemont's goals was power play. I was like, holy crap. Power play goal. What is that? I don't know.
I am really looking forward to seeing Arvidsson, hopefully, and Pasta on the same unit, because I think that's going to be a potential nightmare scenario for the the team that needs to kill off that penalty. At least that's my hope. But
I agree. And I believe those are the only two returners we besides Swayman that we have not seen play yet.
Yes.
In a game. So looking forward, at the time of this recording, the Bruins have not played against the second game against the Flyers. That's happening tonight. So by the time you hear this, it will have happened.
Right. And do we think any regulars will be suited up for that game?
I think
not just for,
Sure. I think, what we were waiting for kind of all weekend was some kind of official news drop. I certainly was like checking.
Right.
Okay, where are the cuts? Where are the cuts? Because usually you'll start to see, if not almost right away, because this happened last year too, so-and-so has been sent down. So-and-so has been sent down. Again, as of this recording, it is 10:30 in the morning. I have not seen anything official out of the Boston Bruins communications. Now, we have seen on Twitter from Ty Anderson some updates to the camp roster.
Right.
But there have been no surprises there. So all of those players who have effectively been assigned to the AHL, Joey Abate, Jake Schmaltz, who was at rookie camp, Jackson Edward, rookie camp, Colin Felix, Ty Gallagher from rookie camp, Loki Johansson, Max Wenner, Luke Karoline, and I'm going to butcher his last name, Simon Zajac, who was also at rookie camp. They all effectively have been assigned to the AHL. Now, I don't know, though, because I haven't seen anything officially from the Bruins. Does that mean that they are actually done and gone and sent down? I don't know yet. But there's still a lot of guys left over, and we're going to start seeing the splitting of the squads so that you will start to see Squad A be more reflective of who's going to be on that 20.
And those aren't marquee
roster.
names. No disrespect to those players, right? So those
right. None of them played,
and,
with the exception of Simon. None of them played in any games. None of them got rostered. So that's not a surprise. Everyone who's left, I believe, has played a game. And I think that the coaching staff, it has a lot of tough decisions ahead. And, I'm not mad, actually, that we haven't heard hide nor hair from the coaching staff, because I'm okay with them doing things a little bit differently. If that's what they got to do to keep, competition going.
Well, and if you look at these names, right, that are left, now these are the names that Ty distinguished on his tweet. Thank you, Ty Anderson, for doing this. So these are the players that are still on the bubble, so to speak, and would not require waivers to be assigned to Providence. So this leads me to believe that, these guys still have a chance to make and get and secure a roster spot. And then others will be assigned to Providence. So these are the names that are still kind of lingering. Dalton Bancroft, Riley Duran,
rookie,
John Farinacci, Brett Harrison,
rookie,
Dan Zlotmelis, Fabian Lysell, Fraser Mitten, Matt Poitras, and Frederick Brunet. Now, I'm going to say, and I'm probably going to get killed for this, but I'm going to say it anyways, because what my eyes see when I watch games is I still don't think Matt Poitras is ready for the big leagues. This young man still gets knocked off the puck much too easily.
Yeah.
And I have a funny feeling, and this may be a very hard decision for the organization.
Right.
But I would send him back down to Providence. And again, people can come at me. This is just what I see. This has been my concern, and I've raised it more than once last season. And it's, to me, continuing into the off season. I just don't think he's ready yet. The guy that I'm really impressed with is Zlotmelis. I think Zlotmelis. I think he's got a chance. I'm not seeing much out of Fabian Lysell.
He's one that I think the expiration date is coming up.
I'm not sure what's going on in this young man's head, but dude, Leaper, get off the pot. You're given opportunities, but I don't know. I'll be surprised if Matt Poitras, and I want to hear the rationale for having Matt Poitras starting on the game day roster, but it's just my 2 cents.
He's an interesting one because he absolutely had a fantastic rookie camp when, he had his sort of real debut. He'd been through the system before, but, and I don't know if that was just good luck, circumstances, who knows, whatever, right?
Well, the kid has skills.
He does. 100%.
He really has, he has a good hockey IQ. He has speed.
Right.
He has decent hands. My concern, and it's solely centered around this, is that he gets knocked off the puck very easily, and then he becomes our target by opposing players. And then when does that lend itself to potentially being a liability or another injury waiting to happen?
Well, and the fact of the matter is, your competition at every camp changes every year. And I just, if you consider of the 9 rookies who were invited up, 5 of them are still standing. Again, Bancroft, Duran, Minton, Harrison, and Loschmelis. Harrison, Minton, and I believe Bancroft have really been noticeable. They've been on the board, and I think that they are very stiff competition.
Yes.
Up against Patra, especially considering that Patra has had as much time as he has had in the AHL and a few stints in the NHL. There comes a time where that experience either helps or hurts you. And the fact that he has this experience and he isn't head and shoulders above them hurts him.
He's not standing out.
No.
He's not standing out. And I'm not saying he's a bust. So before
No.
Right. We're not saying he's a bust. No. Right. We're not saying he's a bust.
Yeah.
However, when you see the style of play and you see the player and you notice things, right? We bring them up and we say it.
Yeah.
This for me is a problem and a big concern.
Yeah, I agree. So we will be finding out more. We've got, let's see, they play the Flyers Monday night. Thursday, they're in Washington, and they finish up preseason on Saturday at home versus the Rangers.
First rehearsal on Saturday against the Rangers, right?
Effectively,
presumably.
I'm expecting a near
Sway. Well, we should see Swayman. One would hope for.
I'm hoping we'll see Swayman against
tonight?
Washington.
I was hoping maybe tonight at home in a period.
Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised if. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure when we will see him.
Presumably
either way. I think
Saturday at home.
Yeah,
will be the dress rehearsal for.
Yes.
Again, are we going to know what all the at least our starting goalie and potentially our first 2 lines?
Yeah, I think we're still going to be seeing in terms of the skaters tonight and Thursday, any of the guys that they are serious about and bubble. Like trying to decide, where do we put this guy? I think that's what we're going to be seeing moving forward, this is how it should be, right? Again, not to go back to last year, but on the very last preseason game for Boston last year, we were still putting up an AHL team. And I remember we played the Rangers, and it was all the Rangers. All the guys were there. And it's like, what? Why are the P Bruins out there?
Right. And
the dress rehearsal of the season.
Right.
It makes no sense.
I'm fresh start, right?
Yes.
Fresh start.
Yeah.
And so we've made note of positive things. We actually have competitions going on in this year's training camp. We are actually seeing those players that we know are a lock for this roster getting playing time and getting into what we hope will be game ready shape. And then we'll see where the chips fall for the players that we spoke about earlier, those bubble players, and who actually seizes the opportunity that's been provided to them, because it is an opportunity to get yourself, which is, I would think and hope, your goal all along, is to get yourself and secure an NHL roster spot.
Yeah. And just briefly, before we kind of wrap up our time here today, I wanted to just throw out there a quick convo about Michael DiPietro. I have to think about his first name every time. I will be calling him Rick at some point this season.
No, it's Mike. Mike.
No. I just want to throw his name out there because I think Bruins fans need to be locked in on his name for a couple reasons. First of all, I am super impressed with this player's journey. He's a 26-year-old goaltender who he came to Boston in the fall of 22 as part of the Jack Studnicka trade with Vancouver. And this goalie went to the Vancouver organization, and, this isn't just my own opinion. This was the general opinion that I heard in multiple places by people who knew also what they were talking about, that his time in Vancouver was a combination of bad timing, COVID protocols and such, and mismanagement of his development. He was part of the taxi squad for almost the entire COVID season in 2021, which arguably negatively impacted his development, because when you're part of the taxi squad, you can't go down because you have to be available in case of, emergency. But then you're also not necessarily actually ever being used. And even his agent was publicly criticizing the way that the Canucks were handling him because he effectively was being held in limbo during a pretty important time in his development. So when he was acquired by Boston, I remember thinking, well, what the heck is Boston doing? Bringing on another goaltender. At the time we had Brandon Bussi, who was kind of being touted as the next big one after Swayman. They brought DiPietro over. They put him in Maine, the ECHL affiliate, for that season. And then I think it was relatively quietly. Again, I'm not a close follower of what's happening in Providence, but quietly brought him to Providence and really started to develop him to the point where, with the departure of Brandon Bussi, he is now looking at the number one starting goaltender spot in Providence. And I think we all know, I believe this is Korpisalo's last season, with his contract. I can't imagine that Boston is going to necessarily extend him. So they'll either let him go, at the end of the season, or they'll trade him.
Yeah.
And so I think we are looking at DiPietro having had as many opportunities to be in net this preseason, not just to get eyes on him, because they want, the main coaching staff want to know what they've got in him, but to give him some experience, because I think that they are probably anticipating him having an opportunity to come up at some point, and to give him a little bit of taste and experience and preparation for when he makes that jump, because it's basically Korpisalo is the one standing between DiPietro and a spot on the NHL roster. So I'm really impressed that he was able to, first of all, that he was able to kind of turn around this situation that he had absolutely no control over.
Right.
And quite frankly, I'm impressed that the Boston Bruins didn't fumble his development.
I was just thinking the same thing. Imagine that. They actually developed.
they actually saved this kid, because they fumbled Studnicka.
Yeah.
I think, they've fumbled Lysell. I'm worried they're doing that to Patra. But here's this goaltender that, look at him now. Mm-hmm. So keep his name in the back of your mind, because I think something again, as with a lot of prospects, he's either going to make it, or he's going to be good enough that they can use him as part of a very valuable trade package. Which, either outcome benefits
the flexibility of potentially moving Korpisalo, right? Yes. Because we all know that there's always a need for good goaltending.
Yep.
Right? I don't even want to... you need great goaltending to win a Stanley Cup. However, good goaltending gets you there.
Right. Exactly. So, any final thoughts, Maria, on what we've chatted about?
No, I think I'm looking forward to seeing what our opening day roster looks like. And we might potentially see some surprise shocks, maybe?
Maybe. You never
Maybe.
know. Yeah. But by the time we record next week, we will know
We will
what
know.
our 2025-26 Boston Bruins will look like. And I'm feeling good. I'm feeling optimistic that regardless of the actual outcome, the attitude, the approach, the vibes, they're good right now. So,
Yes. Let the games begin.
absolutely. And as always, like and subscribe for more content, and be sure to leave a rating and review to help other Bruins fans find us. You can support the podcast by joining our Patreon or following us on all of our socials at Tape to Tape MK and on Substack at tapetotapemk.substack.com. And as always, go Bees!
Go Bees!